Welcome to Lewis on the Law. You are listening to Lewis on the Law. My name is James Lewis, and I have an exciting show for you guys today. It's going to be just a little bit different. I have attorney Sasan Nemat on with me, and we are going to be introducing a new type of show. It's called The Legal Hour. And in this show today, we're going to talk a little bit Supreme Court. We're going to talk a case that involves a takings issue. We're going to talk about what's going on in the news right now. And it's really funny because one of the stories is, and this is a true story, is being gluten-free a disability?
That is right, James. There's a lot going on, and I'm happy to be on board and have this opportunity with your listeners. First, if you're listening to this show, thanks for your time. Thanks for giving us your time. It's going to be hopefully a great hour of speaking on some of the very substantive sort of legal stuff going on with the Supreme Court, some of the things going on with some of the things here in the United States, state of Georgia, as well as some things overseas. So we're going to try to cover a little bit of everything today, and hopefully we'll have a great show. But I'm glad to be alongside you here today, and hopefully with Attorney Lewis, you're going to hear great stuff.
That's right. We're going to end the show with a segment called What in the World? And that takes a look at legal issues worldwide. So we're going to start off with a Supreme Court case, and this case involves the taking issues. And this is Nix versus Scott Township, Pennsylvania. And just to give you guys a little bit of background, it looks like the town of Scott Township passed an ordinance allowing access to burial grounds through a woman's property. And of course, she gets upset and she files a takings claim against the town.
That is right. So if you're listening to this, there are, three ways that, or sometimes more, of ways that laws can be passed. One of those are the Supreme Court. Supreme Court makes a decision. That is the law of the land. When over time laws change, Supreme Court orders change, the law of the land changes. So this case, Nick versus Scott Township of Pennsylvania, has a very significant impact on potentially how takings arguments going to be planning out in the next, decade or so, if not more. So
that's pretty serious, because if you own property, you want to know if you can be compensated when the government takes your property or takes some rights of yours related to property.
Sure. And there's a case that came in years before in Williamson County Regional Planning Commission versus Hamilton Bank.
Wait a minute, but I want to stop you here for a second.
Go ahead.
So the township has granted her rights to burial grounds. What kind of burial grounds are these? Do you know? I mean, when I heard that, I'm like, my first thought is like Indian tribal burial grounds, some sort of historic site.
So apparently this was this lady's, land of so many years, so many acres.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not your...
So she's just got acres. It's not even like, this is my house and you guys are walking across my lawn.
That's right. She's got a whole bunch of acres. At some portion of it, there are burial sites. So the city, the municipality passes this ordinance that says within the daylight hours, anybody who's got a burial site, you got to allow access for folks coming in to visit.
Oh, so this is just like a cemetery.
That is the portion of the land, I believe, was. So within the daylight, she was supposed to, quote unquote, allow access for folks, and also allow access to the officials who were with the municipality enforcing this ordinance.
So they didn't actually ask her permission or anything like that. They just said, we're going to pass an ordinance and now you're going to have to give people access or allow people to walk across your land.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I mean, that's the beauty of federalism, right? It's you have different...
is that the beauty of it, or is that the pain of it? Oh.
It could be both, right? You're looking at a municipality that has limited resources, has limited folks that can do, certain due diligence, and you can't really make every law specific for every person in the nation, right? So sometimes a municipality, with what they have, they come up with what will work for the general sense of things, and then a property owner like this lady would be like, oh wait, what? Like now you're going to open the floodgates of folks coming into my property, and now I'm forced to, allow these folks entry, and she did not. So There we go.
There we go. And the funny thing is, I think Justice Alito, he went in his cross-examination of the town attorney, he said, "So you guys didn't think into your budgetary restraints how much this was going to cost you to put in effect this ordinance?" And I think their reply was no.
and that's the other. The issue in this case, it comes down to this: if you're a landowner, a municipality in your state comes up with a law that, quote unquote, is taking your property. And let's first define what that taking really is. I know we will get to the details of it, but just for the sake of conversation, that is by the United States Constitution. If a municipality, state agency comes out and takes away your property, you're entitled to what's known as just compensation.
Now, that's a really good question on what just compensation is.
There we go. So that is the golden question. And to the municipality and to the landowner, there would be difference. So we come down to the case.
I want to stop you right here because just compensation is a really, really big question. And if you guys want to know what just compensation is, call your property lawyers. That's right. That's me and Sasan. My name's James Lewis, 404-749-0894.
That's 770-285-8008.
That's right. Call us and we will tell the government what is just compensation for your land. Okay. I kind of broke your flow there a little bit. Okay. Go back to just compensation.
So just compensation is pretty much, and I know, again, we will get to the bottom of it, but you need to be paid for what's been taken away from you. That's your due process rights. In this case, in this matter, proponents of this case are saying you can't treat property rights, land ownership, as a second-class right. You got to give the platform of federal courts to these folks that have land and now are claiming to have been their property has been taken from them. So that's the issue in here. Municipalities saying, you know what? You got to go through the state mechanism, go through exhaust your state mechanisms, go through the municipality admin hearings, go through the state courts, go all the way through the Supreme Court, and then if you're on,
then if you get no relief, if they don't give you just compensation, then you can bounce it into federal court.
And the petitioner here is saying, you know what? Based on my constitutional rights, I need to be able to go through with my claim in federal courts. And here's the thing. Now it comes down to, efficiency of justice, all of that. At the same time, home court advantage, right? Who wants to have that home court advantage?
I think there's even a bigger issue even before we get into that. Because, you and I, we're on the ground. We try cases here at a local level in state court, magistrate court, superior court, court of appeals, and if we get lucky in the Georgia Supreme Court. But anyways, that takes money. That costs money and it costs time, and time is money also. So you're talking, if you have to work your way through this incredibly regimented process, you're talking an awful lot of time and money that's expended just to get it to the federal level.
That is correct. And here's what has happened since the Supreme Court in the earlier case decided that that's how things should be. In application of that court ruling, a lot of landowners who've attempted to go to the federal courts haven't really been able to go there. They really have been blocked out of it. So in essence, state court has been their sort of one and only platform in reality. So now it really is becoming a question of federalism, right? In this sort of case, who has the right to hear this? Is this a federal question to be heard in federal courts? And here's the thing. State court, if you're on the side of municipality or the state court, you would say, as long as the process is fair, as long as it's reasonable, and as long as just compensation is provided, why you care?
Well, that is what the state court would say, because the states will then decide what is just compensation. You won't actually, you'll have a little bit of leverage, but they know that it costs you money. They know that it costs you time. They know that you got to find an attorney who's willing to do all of that work to get you through them. So this gives the states an advantage right there. They can decide what is just compensation. They can decide what is fair, and then stop it right there, and then challenge you to go ahead and take this to another level. We're almost at the end of our segment here. So I want to go ahead and let you give them some contact information. Sure.
This is, again, Attorney Nemat. You can reach me at 770 285-8008. And we are here on behalf of Georgia Property Lawyers.
Yep, my name is James Lewis. You can give me a call at 404-610-0075. Once again, that's 404-610-0075. And if you have a property dispute, if the town has taken your property, if the town is dumping water or sewage into your property, there's all kinds of things that define a taking. You need to go ahead and give us a call, and we'll help you through your problem, and we'll make sure that you get just compensation. When we get back, we're going to go ahead and get into the nuts and bolts of the Federalist question that's presented here in Nix versus Scott Township.
That's right. We look forward to it.
You're listening to The Legal Hour. That's right. This is a different type of show. Lewis on the Law is presenting The Legal Hour. And when we do this type of show, and I think we haven't quite ironed out the details, maybe it'll be every now and then, maybe it'll be monthly, maybe it'll be every single week. But when we bring you the Legal Hour, we're going to go ahead and focus on a Supreme Court issue, some local legal news, some national legal news, and some international legal news. That's right. We're going to touch every single area of the law to bring you the information that you need. I have attorney Sasan Nemat on with me, and we are breaking it down to you. We've got Nix versus Scott Township, Pennsylvania.
That is right. With the Legal Hour, our goal is to provide our listeners with great understanding of some of this stuff going on in the world that would really impact their lives. Believe it or not, Nix versus Township, if you're a landowner, may really impact the way you go about seeking justice.
I think there's a little bit of disconnect with people. I think I heard during this last election, people were like, well, what does the Supreme Court mean? I don't care if someone is nominated to the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court has a huge amount of power on what happens in your daily life. So this is something that I think that people need to pay attention to, and this is what our goal is to bring everyday listeners like you out there into the national consciousness so that you understand what's going on nationally and how that affects you locally.
That's right. And it's one of those things that you got to stay in touch, and you got to understand that how the game is being played in a way, so you understand how the plays impact your day-to-day. In this case, Nix versus Township, you're looking at how, in essence, petitioners of this case are trying to change, as we discussed in the earlier segment, a case that was in the Supreme Court before, the Williamson County case. So they're trying to say, hey, you don't need to go exhaust all your state procedures before being able to go to federal courts. And you can, as a matter of fact, just go into the federal courts and argue your case. But the municipality is saying, you know what? That would put so much restraint on every municipality in the country. So if you're in some rural county somewhere, now all of a sudden you may be dragged in going to Supreme Court at some point, or some federal circuit somewhere miles and miles away from you, and that's not judicial economy. So, and then as a landowner, the landowner is thinking, you know what, I may, quote unquote, be able to get better justice in somewhere that is more of a federal platform rather than the state platform, where the state and the municipalities on one side of the game.
Yeah, I think it's really important because if you're in, and we'll take some small county like Montgomery County, and I don't mean to offend any of you Montgomery Countyers out there, because I know I have two of you as my clients. But if we're in Montgomery County and your land has been taken, there'll be an issue on how much you're compensated for, and if your only source of recourse is to first go to your county superior court, where Judge Jim Bob is going to say that's fair, then then your rights as a property owner are severely limited. And the thing about the takings clause is the takings clause is guaranteed in the U.S. Constitution that you'd have a certain amount of due process. And this is in the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution, which says that private property shall not be taken for public use without just compensation. So they're using public use here, and then there is a real question of just compensation. And to have just one medium where that is your first ball game, to allow a standard for just compensation to be set, that's going to really limit the property rights of property owners. I think it's really interesting that that the U.S. government, even though they may not agree with Nix's argument completely, has kind of come in on the side of Nix.
It is, and I think it just goes down to the bottom of how federalism works. If you sit on the federal side, you may enjoy more power to the federal courts at the expense of state courts, because again, if the Nix of the world can go into federal courts, that opens other ways for the federal circuits to be able to enforce their laws. And well, the federal law is implied enforced in everywhere, but it just gives them a little more leeway and leverage in other matters that potentially they could not. So this is federalism at its best in a way, because you're seeing how a property right, like you said, how the takings Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution is being construed in the Supreme Court, how it's been argued on either side of it. At the same time, we're seeing how the broader federal government is taken aside, and it's quite fascinating.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because I think it is Justice Kavanaugh who basically asks, so what, you think that state courts are not as good as federal courts? And I think the response was that, and you see this because there's this huge discrepancy between states and how they treat their people, but the states may not be fully entrusted to protect federally or federal constitutional rights. I mean, you can see that in certain areas, states will limit rights which may be protected federally. And I think their argument is that they would rather have it in federal court, especially some issues, because states themselves, I mean, there's the home cooking element of it, right? States themselves may be more entrusted to protect their own interest over federally constitutionally protected rights.
And not only the home court advantage, but also how the earlier decision of Williamson County decision has been applied has created a catch-22 situation for some landowners, because in essence the state is saying you got to go and exhaust all these remedies before you can seek the federal court's help. At the same time, a lot of landowners that have done that, once they actually end up going to federal courts, their claims are precluded from the federal courts. So in essence, a federal issue is never really seen a day in court in federal courts. And that's, I think, personally why the writ of certiorari was allowed in this matter with the Supreme Court. And now, both sides are hearing it out, and soon there will be a ruling on it.
That is really interesting, because that's a real issue, claim preclusion, because then your case dies and you never even get afforded the constitutionally protected right of bringing a takings issue, which is a constitutional issue, into a federal court.
That's right. And it's interesting.
That's a serious problem.
It really is. And but at the same time, though, what the state is arguing, what the municipality is arguing, is saying, now, if you want to open that floodgate, you're going to have 1 million landowners that all of a sudden go to the federal courts. And
because if I'm in Montgomery County, I am definitely bouncing that into federal court the first chance I get.
That's right. And from this county, that county, now to the other state, this county, that county, and all of a sudden you got a whole bunch of new cases coming in that are asking a federal question. But the question is, would they necessarily get an unfair process in the state courts? And would it be judicially feasible to hear now all these new cases? So there is an interesting debate on it. But nevertheless, however it goes, it would definitely impact the law of the land.
Yeah, I think it's interesting the way that the justices are lining themselves up on this, because it's not along the party lines that you would think, but sometimes on ideological lines like constitutionalism versus federalism. Alito's coming down on one side, and you would think that Gorsuch would align there, but it looks like he's and we don't know until they vote, but it appears as though he's leaning more on the Sotomayor-Breyer bandwagon, and we'll see how this actually plays out when they actually vote. But here it's suspected that Kavanaugh may be the swing vote. So it's really interesting that this is not playing itself out along the lines that you would think, but it's on different ideological lines involving how people view property rights, even more so than states' rights.
I think you nailed it in the head. This because it's a property right issue, and it's, to be fair, I don't think Supreme Court hears property rights as often as it does other sort of matters. So it definitely is one of those things that it comes up less often and on rare occasions. But it's very interesting to see how it plays out. And you're absolutely right that in this case, the way that the justices have aligned themselves is more of ideologies and not necessarily party lines. And it's more of how each they view state rights versus federal rights, how they each view property rights versus the sort of common good. And it's just...
And then even how they interpret the Constitution.
That's right. And at some points, the feasibility of it, meaning... let's say, and then the broader issue that comes with this ruling, meaning now if the court comes up with a decision that changes things, what's going to happen to a lot of for example, the environmental agencies regulations that are out there? This was just a simple easement. All they said was, hey, open your gates within daylight to public as well as folks enforcing the ordinance. Now imagine how it would be enforced, or how property rights would be impacted with all the EPAs, Department of Environmental, all these environmental agencies. So it's just an interesting thing to see how it goes.
And I think this gets more to just people walking across your land. This will touch on eminent domain. It'll touch on easements. It'll touch on every single issue in which you interrelate with your local municipality, and that involves your land. There's lots of things: nuisance, trespass, easements, eminent domain. All those things are going to be rolled up into this carpet. So it's really, really important for you to pay attention to. You're listening to The Property Lawyers. My name is James Lewis. You can reach me at 404-610-0075.
And you can reach me. This is Sasan Nemat, 770-285-8008.
This is a special edition of Lewis on the Law. We call it the Legal Hour, where we take a look at federal issues, what's going on in the Supreme Court, international legal issues, and national news. When we get back, we're going to get to the national news section of this. You are listening to a very, very special issue of Lewis on the Law. That's right, we're presenting the Legal Hour. My name is James Lewis, and I'm here with attorney Sasan Nemat. You can reach me at 404-610-0075.
You can reach me at 770-285-8008.
And collectively, we are the Georgia Property Lawyers. We are bringing you information that affects your property. And this show will actually extend beyond property rights. And we'll try and touch on every single issue that's out there, especially Supreme Court issues that have national relevance that will affect you here locally. So, you know what? There's all kinds of crazy stuff in the news. Let me read out some headlines to you guys. We've got all kinds of stuff. I love this. Is gluten-free a disability? Is gluten intolerance a disability? My wife is gluten intolerant. Her sister is gluten intolerant. They're Irish Americans, or they're just Irish descent. So they said a lot of those people over there, those Irish people, have issues with digesting gluten. And I think it's interesting that now, and this is a populist thing, because everything is gluten free these days. They got gluten free pizza crust. They got gluten free doggy biscuits. The gluten free is everywhere. So I love this. The Fourth Circuit reinstates a suit that barred a boy from eating his gluten-free meal, and this is because being gluten intolerant is a disability.
That's right. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those interesting situations because the family goes to have dinner, and I believe they bring their own. The son
brings his own meal.
He brings a sandwich to the shop, and the shop is like, "No, you can't. Don't do this to us, right? We want to make our money as well." So that's how the story started. Believe it or not, that ended up in litigation.
Yeah. He's like, I'm going to eat my sandwich at this table. I am disabled. I cannot eat your sandwiches.
You know, as attorneys, I don't think we can be upset that people think and go in and litigate on certain things at the same time.
Well, if you're a disability attorney or you specialize in tort lawsuits, you might want to pay attention because you might be making a lot more money in the future.
That's right. And but ADA has a very important function in the society because it pretty much says if you have a life impairment that impacts how you do your basic functioning, and I'm simplifying this, then in that sense...
We simplify everything. Just in case you guys are out there, none of what you hear on this show is designed to be legal information or legal advice. This is just information we're throwing at you. Everything is simplified here.
I used to think, attorneys wanted just your money, and that's what they would say that. But now I've learned that just the details of it, it's just hard to break it all down in a matter of minutes. So yeah, we're definitely simplifying everything that we discuss in this show. But here, going back to the story, it's a question of, is the diet, does that constitute being an impairment that limits one's ability to function in the day-to-day life?
I mean, if the diet is so restrictive that it becomes an impairment, I think there probably is an issue, and that I think is what the Fourth Circuit has decided.
That's right.
And it's interesting because I think the restaurant served a gluten-free sandwich, so they're like, well, why didn't he order our sandwich? And I think their reply was that he's done that before at restaurants, and they told him it was gluten-free, but it actually wasn't, and he had severe health issues and complications because of that.
And that's I think why there's skepticism on how well their evidence will hold up actually in court. But it's interesting that the court has pretty much opened the space up for these parties to have their say in court and figure out whether a violation had taken place or not.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy, and anyways, now it's open for litigation. You can say I am gluten intolerant, I have celiac disease, and I need to be afforded my rights. If I want to bring my sandwich into your restaurant, I can eat it there while all my friends are enjoying your hamburgers and your chicken wings.
So if you're a restaurant owner, know this. In the Fourth Circuit, the court has decided just very recently that making one's, in the restaurant, making a gluten-free meal is not a reasonable accommodation under ADA. So that means if a person of disability with a dietary need comes in and says, hey, I got to have my own sandwich in here, and you tell them, hey, you know what? We will make that just as good as you have it and no gluten. That's not enough.
No, that's not enough. It's in your best interest just to let them eat the sandwich.
That's right.
And that's not legal advice. We're just giving you legal information.
You may save some attorney's fees, though.
Yeah, if you don't want to get caught up in litigation, just let them eat the sandwich in your shop. I mean, it's not going to kill you. Okay, a judge removes a clerk with armed deputies.
How about that?
Can you do that? I mean, can you just bring your armed deputies and say, hey, buddy, you're fired?
Yes. Well, this was a very interesting situation because it was a sort of a showdown between the judge and this circuit clerk.
Right? And her husband is another circuit judge, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct. And it's just so interesting that, you really don't think these sort of things happen.
I know, we're not making this stuff up, guys. This is coming straight from the bar.
But here's the thing. When you actually work in this profession, then you realize that everybody is just, at the end of the day, we're all humans. We have good days, bad days. Things go on in our lives.
We get upset with each other.
We get upset with each other.
We bring armed security guards to remove you from your chair.
That's right.
Violently.
That's right. That's a possibility. If it's out there, that's a tool that could be used, I guess. So yeah, that's exactly what happened, and there's been a massive in a number of clerks quitting at the same time. So there's just
and the judge blamed it on this clerk, right? He said because she was given the chance to hire and fire that people were quitting because of her.
That's right, and then it's so going back to it. It's in Lincoln County, Missouri. That's I believe that's where it was, and it's just one of those things that you would. It's more of it's like a reality TV. Happening in real life,
and unfortunately, I think the judge and the judge is being pretty hasty here because he's going to end up in litigation because you can't actually remove a clerk without cause. I mean, there's going to have to be a procedure, and if you don't follow that procedure, you can't just bring your. I mean, judges have a lot of power. If you've been in a courtroom, and me and Sasan both have, you will realize that judges have a ton of power. And sometimes I think they take that a little bit too far because this judge is going to end up in litigation.
Most likely. And it seems like that's going to be the case. And it's, however you feel about a case like this, at the end of the day, it's just a matter of taxpayers' resources, right? There are times that I think no matter, who you are, you just feel like those dollars could be spent just a little better.
Just a little bit better. Sasan, I think this section should actually be called Judges Gone Wild. I mean,
well, today is, right?
Today it is Judges Gone Wild. So the next story, and we're not making this stuff up, guys. We couldn't make it. I'm not that creative. I couldn't make this stuff up if I wanted to. So a judge is on leave pending investigation of her shooting of her estranged husband. That's right. You heard it from me. She shot her estranged husband.
She sure did.
So wait a minute. Okay, I thought judges were attorneys. I mean, she shot her. I mean, I guess she's now put together a legal argument why she was allowed to shoot her husband.
Yeah, I mean, so this happened in Pennsylvania with a magistrate court judge. And it's, none of these sort of things. I know you're sort of.
And I'm not even sure if a magistrate judge is actually an attorney. No, don't hate me, magistrate judges out there. So I'm in magistrate court next week.
Yes. So here's the thing. I mean, these sort of things are real life things that happen when people are in pain and going through a lot of stuff going on.
Judges are humans too.
That's sure they are. So what happened here is there's been a little bit of a situation between her and her husband. I won't name her on the show. I'm sure you can look it up.
Yeah.
But they go in. There's a protection order at some point. So apparently he goes in to help her with moving certain stuff, and
she shoots him.
she ends up shooting him. But that being said, apparently at some point, and the reason why she got the protection order was when she was driving, he did something crazy where, either allegedly tried to push her out of the car or messed up with the steering wheel or something like that. He was charged with assault and, as a matter of fact, jailed for 15 days.
Ouch. And that still doesn't mean anything because if you've ever gotten a protective order, you realize that protective orders are extremely easy to get. So, and I'm not sure what the situation was exactly that led to him being at her house where he was unfortunately shot.
That is right. And if the Supreme Court case really tired you out, we gave you a couple of reasons to smile. And know that the law is not always boring. There's crazy stuff happening.
It's exciting and fun. And I'm looking at a picture of her, and she's smiling there. She looks like such a nice lady. I'm just like, she set up her husband and shot him.
Well, as you know, there stands your ground laws with shooting people. So
Georgia's one of them.
Maybe she needs to move to Georgia, right?
That's right. Stand your ground. If they're in your house and they don't get out, just go ahead and put a bullet in them. It's totally legal.
Well, now maybe you and I need to contact this magistrate judge and have a conversation with her. So
right.
She may be appreciated in Georgia if she's not in Pennsylvania.
Somebody needs to help her. You're listening to a very special edition of Lewis on the Law. This is the Legal Hour. All the stuff you hear on this show is not designed to be legal advice. We only give you information. We're presenting, and this show's a little bit different. We're presenting the news and some Supreme Court issues that will affect your life on a daily basis. Trust me. If you bought a house, if you own property, the case we talked about in the beginning of the show will or may affect your life. My name's James Lewis. You can reach me at 404-610-0075.
And this is Attorney Nemat. You can reach me at 770-285-8008.
You are listening to the special edition of Lewis on the Law. We are the property lawyers. And when we get back, we're going to debut our feature called What in the World? You are listening to Lewis on the Law, and this is a very special presentation of Lewis on the Law because we are debuting a new show format. The show is going to be called The Legal Hour with Attorney James Lewis and Attorney Sasan Nemat, and we're going to talk about different types of issues with a national relevance. We're going to take a look at Supreme Court cases that affect you, that are national cases that affect you locally. We're also going to take a look at national news and international news. So it's a different type of show, but something that I think that you will gain a lot of value at. And my name is James Lewis. My number is 404-610-0075.
And this is Attorney Nemat, 770-285-8008. And while we're not here giving you legal advice, the general information that we provide here in the Legal Hour, we hope that, again, like Attorney Lewis said, would help you navigate through the plays and know what's really coming in the national, international, and just, all other legal arenas.
And if you have a serious legal issue and you need help from an attorney, you can go ahead and contact us. You can give either one of us a call. And even if we can't help you with your issue, we both know a huge amount of attorneys, and we can direct you to the right attorney for you. And I know that I won't speak for Sasan, but I know I am always glad to talk to you and help you in at least steer you in the right direction. You can feel free. Just give me a call. Now, I brought this megaphone with me, and I haven't used it yet, so I have to use it. And this next section is called What in the World?
What in the world? And in this next section, our goal is to showcase certain things that are going on in the world that could be good models for other cities, other municipalities, other businesses to take advantage of, things that potentially are out there but not really being looked upon, or if they are being looked upon, they're still worth the conversation of us in here.
Sasan, I have to say my megaphone was not as cool as I thought it was going to be. I brought it in. I'm like, this is going to be so cool. This is going to be so awesome.
I think I may have a personal injury claim against you at some point.
Okay, please don't sue me. I'm in litigation. I'm writing briefs
one
and
more
pleadings.
Coming your way.
I'm writing briefs, pleadings all day long when I used to just write commercial leases. And okay, what in the world? What in the world is happening in the world? So our economy is a little shaky these days. You have a solution. We're going to present a legal solution to invigorate the economy.
So one of the solutions that is actually, believe it or not, I wish I could take the credits for it, but
you can't. You didn't invent the solution.
No, I did not. So today it's not the day I can take this credit for it. However,
but maybe tomorrow.
But tomorrow it is. Maybe who knows? We will see. But here's the thing. What has been utilized, especially right after the recession and moving forward, is for a lot of land use real estate deals. In funding these deals is the investment job-based immigration platform, what's known as EB-5. This platform has been used quite often to help investors overseas who are interested to become U.S. citizens, a lot of them mainly for their sake of their families, to fund projects here. It doesn't have to be real estate. However, construction creates a lot of jobs. There's a job mandate with this platform. So it's a sort of marriage of immigration, capital, resources with land use real estate deals. So it's
a good way to bring money into the U.S. economy.
It sure is. So let's talk about that now that you discussed the money. Mm-hmm. So how much money?
I'm always discussing money because
James,
because
you and money.
Yeah, right. Hey, money makes the world go round. It keeps my wife happy. So
hey, I don't blame her. So how much money? Let's discuss that.
Yeah, how much money?
How much money? If you're in somewhere like, Vietnam, Hong Kong, South Korea, somewhere, listen to this. and you're wondering, how much money do I need to take part in EB5? Well, my friend, you need either $500,000 or $1 million. And here's the thing, to us,
that's real dollars.
Those are real dollars. But here's the thing, to us sitting in this room in here, $500,000 is a lot of money, and it sure is. But if you're in somewhere in Tokyo, and this is not the biggest room in the world because we're in a studio. However, if this studio somewhere was worth $500,000, and you had quite a number of these, then and you could exchange one of those for citizenship for yourself and your family. It's not really a bad deal. So $500,000.
So you're saying there are people out there with a lot of money?
I think there are. I've seen a few of them. So $500,000 if you're in an economically challenged or rural area, or $1 million if you're in your sort of the thriving area. So it definitely is a great tool to source funds. If you're a business in here in the United States and you want to talk about how you can, if you're a developer and you want to talk about how you can set yourself up for that platform, you definitely want to talk to an attorney and really get more understanding about it. If you're overseas and you're thinking about doing something like this, you definitely want to talk to an attorney and get a better feel for how you want to go about it and how you want to structure it.
And I know that seems like a lot of money, but you and I were just hired by a guy who's hired us to help him put together his $45 million Atlanta deal. So
that's correct.
So those people are out there and they're just throwing it around like crazy. And if you do, go ahead and throw it in Sasan's direction.
Please do. I'm one phone call away at 770-285-8008. But I would say this: the ways you can structure these deals, you can go in alone. Put your capital at risk. You have to create 10 jobs. That's the requirement for this platform. You can pull it all together directly.
And Sasan here will be happy to help you create those 10 jobs.
I sure will. I have my colleagues in various industries that we work together, and it's one of those things that is definitely possible. And I tell you this, and the other one I was going to say is the regional centers is the other way of structuring it. But going back to the jobs, that is a very beautiful thing to know that for each American dream that you're helping to create, at the same time, there are 10 American dreams here at home that
you're going to bring to life.
That's right. Their families have, a paycheck that they can be happy with. They have, a career to be happy with. So it's, my friends, immigration now has been discussed as in a negative light. As a first-generation immigrant, I want to tell you there are many ways that immigrants contribute positively.
Well, wait a minute. It's in a negative light, but if you got $1 million, maybe it's not such a negative light.
That is then welcome home.
Welcome home.
You get to the front of the line,
welcome home,
my friend.
brother. If you got $1 million to invest, you're welcome here.
So let's go back to EB5 program. One of the requirements is this capital that you invest, whether it's $500,000 or $1 million, needs to be at quote unquote at risk. That means the capital needs to be engaged in a for-profit institution that is engaging this capital at risk, and it can be structured in a debt format or it can be structured in the equity side format. But regardless, you can sort of just sit it on the sidelines, give it a little bit of time, and then call it a day. At the same time, once you establish the track record of job creation, that's the time that USCIS actually does grant you a permanent green card. Until then,
wait a minute. Who is USCIS?
So that is, in essence, the immigration services with the United States government.
Okay.
So after you've satisfied the job requirements, that's the time that the permanent green card is given. But before that, there's a conditional green card that's given. So if you're listening to here, to this show here in the United States, this could also apply to you. You don't have to be some, foreign-based investor. You can be in the United States on some sort of non-permanent status, looking to become that. And if you have $500,000 or $1 million,
$1 million, just go ahead.
There you go. You already have my number. Give me a call, 770-285-8008. That being said, there's securities concerns that each investor needs to be aware of. That means you have to be what's known as accredited investor. So you can't just, be someone who's living, quote unquote, paycheck to paycheck, and then want to really, gather these funds. And these proceeds need to come from legitimate places. And that's a very tricky thing, because you need to be able to show where you got that money. So that money that just can't come from, some...
You mean Pablo Escobar is not welcome here? Pablo.
Not today. Not today.
Yeah, at least not in our pockets. Okay, we were going to get into sustainable cities and Singapore and the job they're doing, but I think we're starting to run out of time a little bit. Sasan, why don't you give them some contact information?
Sure. You can reach me at 770-285-8008. And I want to thank you, James. I think you've done a great job with Lewis on the Law, and now with this debut section of the Legal Hour. I think it's a great opportunity for us to put together a show that is both fun at the same time, very informative, and helps your listeners really understand what's going on and be able to really talk to the national audience on all these issues that really does impact their lives.
That's right. We're going to bring national issues and show you how it affects you on the local level. And and I know there's gluten intolerant people out there listening. You guys got something out of this today. You guys realize that you may have a disability and that you have rights, gosh darn it.
At least if you're in the Fourth Circuit, for now.
For now, we're going to follow this thing as it travels along the pathway of law.
And hopefully one day, soon we can discuss the sustainability that a city-state like Singapore has done in our What in the World section.
That's right.
Because they sure have done a very interesting, good job of it with making sure public transport is good. Folks of different economies can live together. And greenery. It's just the amount of greenery that you see once you visit Singapore it blows your mind.
And just before we leave, I have to go ahead and thank the guys for making this happen. The great antagonist Anthony Cook over there bringing the video, making it happen. He's looking at me with a smirk on his face. We both know why. I'm not going to say why. And the maestro of music, Sam Davis. Thank you guys for making the magic happen and keeping this dream alive.
Thank you for having me.